We are in basketball season, but Brandon, I know you always find time for TV and movies. Anything good you're watching right now? Any random one-off recommendations you might have?
Okay. I have a recommendation for you. I'm super pumped that season 5 of Ghost has started. Ghost has come back. This is a show I randomly picked up last year and binge watched the whole thing. Do you know what Ghost is?
Is that the one with Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Okay. Well, first of all, every show would be better with Jennifer Love Hewitt. But no, I'm pretty sure that's the Ghost Whisperer. This is it's like a feel-good comedy on CBS. It's about like this couple that moves into this old house, and the wife has an accident and she's able to see and talk to the ghosts that are living there, but the husband isn't able to. And like the ghosts are all these different characters. Like one's like a Viking who's been there for like hundreds and hundreds of years. One's like an old hippie. There's an old like a singer. There's like all these different characters, and it's like this feel good, funny comedy. I highly recommend it. I don't know if I'm selling it really well, but I really enjoy it.
Well, you lost a few points when you said Jennifer Love Hewitt was not in the show,
Yeah.
But hey, I like a good feel good comedy, so I'll check it out.
You should check it out. And then next pod, at least try to watch the pilot episode and let me know. It's actually much like The Office. There was a British version of Ghost, and the US, of course, saw something good that they did and copied it. But I've watched both, and I actually think that the US version is better.
Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar. Brandon, how you feeling on a 5-0 Wednesday?
Feeling good on a 5-0 Wednesday. The Thunder are providing a lot of fun entertainment to start the season. It's so funny because this team broke the all-time NBA record in point differential last year, but this year they decided, you know what? Let's just have clutch game after clutch game and make this a lot of fun for the fans.
Yeah, they haven't really run through teams like we had grown accustomed to last season, but hey, this reminds me of the playoffs where, you know, you are just happy to walk away with a win, and that feels like most of the first 5 games so far. Happy to walk away with the win. So on today's episode, we are going to walk through those first 5 games of the season and that 5-0 start from the Thunder. We should also check in on how Ajay Mitchell and Aaron Wiggins have gotten off to really hot starts, especially with the injuries to the Thunder. We should talk about Shai and all the discussion about his free throw shooting, or dare I say lack thereof. And then we'll kind of check in on the injury status and see when we might see a fully healthy Thunder team. But let's go back. Opening night, banner night, ring ceremony, Kevin Durant in the house. The Thunder are hosting the Rockets in the first game back on NBC in decades. And that was a matchup. Thunder won that one, 125-124. It took 2 overtimes. Brandon, what did you like about that game? And what didn't you like about that game?
What I liked about that game, I gotta mention the banner and ring ceremony. I think it was incredible. I think that's like an all-time moment in memory, not only for all the fans in attendance that night, but for everybody watching. You know, the NBA on NBC, their first game in 23 years, and their opening line is "Good evening and welcome to Oklahoma City, home of the NBA champion Thunder." That's a big deal. And I think that seeing the banner being raised and seeing all the players like pose in front of the banner that says champions with their rings, just such a cool moment that I think will be like a core fan memory going forward. As far as the game itself, I think this was an impressive win. You know, the Rockets are considered a West contender, and the Thunder didn't have Jada. They didn't have Isaiah Joe, and they still beat this team. Obviously, it took double overtime, but I thought that Shai, of course, was great. He had 35, 5 and 5. I thought that Chet was fantastic, and that's really what stood out to me and has stood out through these first 5 games. is that Chet looks healthy, and he looks like that pre-injury Chet that we saw last year that was absolutely on an all-star, all-NBA trajectory before he got hurt. I think it would have been like neck and neck with him and Wemby for Defensive Player of the Year if neither of them had gotten hurt. Unfortunately, they both did. But he obviously was never 100% after coming back from that injury last year. He looks 100% to start the season. I know he just missed this last game with back soreness, but that's a precaution type of thing. Chet has been outstanding. And then, of course, AJ Mitchell out of the gates on opening night proved to be essential and vital to this rotation. And I don't think they win that game opening night without AJ Mitchell.
Okay, well, what didn't you like?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was supposed to say what I didn't like. I thought there was so much to like about this game. I don't know if there's anything that I didn't like about it because, I guess I could go with the low-hanging fruit and say that it took 2 overtimes to beat the Rockets and it was, a long game. The fact that it was opening night and it took like 3 hours to get through the game. But I thought all that was fun. Like I thought going to double overtime on opening night, like made the banner night that much sweeter for everybody, that much more memorable for everybody. There was so much to like about opening night. Maybe the fact that Alperen Şengün was just sinking 3 after 3 after 3. His career high for threes going into this game was 3 3-pointers, and he hit 5 on opening night. He went 5 of 8 from 3. I think that was probably the toughest thing for Thunder fans was just to see Şengün turn into Steph Curry on opening night, maybe.
Well, I'll tell you, I agree with everything that you liked. I really liked how aggressive Chet was to start the game. He made his first 7. He looked like a different player, right? Like he had just taken a major leap. And as Kendrick Perkins said, been in the lab all summer. But I'll tell you what I didn't like was the refs not calling a technical on the Rockets when Kevin Durant clearly called a timeout in that first overtime.
How did I forget? Good call. Yes. Yeah, forget my Şengün 3-pointer thing. That was the much bigger deal. Although I will say this, because they didn't call it, and that obviously should have been a tech, Shai goes to the line, sinks a free throw, and the game is over. I will say, though, that because they didn't call it, it provided some fun little controversy on opening night, and we ended up getting to see like extra bonus basketball for free on opening night. So it all ended well, but yeah, for sure that was a big blunder from the refs.
Yeah, and we would feel a lot differently if Houston pulled it out in the second overtime, but since the Thunder did win that game, I guess it turned out okay. Let's move on to the second game of the season, a 141-135 win for the Thunder. Again, in 2 overtimes, they beat the Pacers in Indiana. Indiana without Haliburton, who is out for the season, but were surprisingly competitive in this one. What did you like? What didn't you like from game 2?
What I liked was, again, Chet, 15 and 12. I know he didn't hit from 3. But his work on the boards, Isaiah Hartenstein's work on the boards that night, he had 14 rebounds that night. Aaron Wiggins had a big night that night, 23 points, 9 rebounds, 5 and 9 from 3. And AJ Mitchell, 26 points, career high. He was huge that game. And then, of course, SGA, 55 points, a career high. Unfortunately, most of the social media narratives after the game were about the free throws. But on the other side, Benedict Mathurin, this was never talked about, shot 17 free throws, actually had a higher free throw rate than SGA from that night. So I guess what I didn't like was the narrative becoming, the free throws after this game. And it kind of, dampered what should have been celebrated as a career night from SGA, and I don't think he got his proper flowers because he was big that night, and the Thunder don't win if he doesn't get those 55 points. And I went through those fouls. Those were legitimate fouls. Now, they called a bunch of fouls both ways. A lot of players shot a lot of free throws this night, but the Pacers just couldn't stop him, so they were hacking him. I think that Mathurin and SGA both deserved all the free throws they got that night. So, but ultimately, I was impressed with the Pacers because down Haliburton, and TJ McConnell and Nembhard leaving at halftime were very, very impressive. They obviously got up for this game. They wanted this game. They wanted some revenge for the NBA Finals, obviously much different stakes. The crowd wanted it, but also impressed with the Thunder to go into this environment and pull out another gritty double overtime win.
Yeah, I agree. And, we'll put a little bookmark to go in depth on the free throw discussion later in the pod. But certainly that was part of the narrative in this one. And this was a fun game. I mean, yes, the Pacers were without Halliburton. They were without McConnell. Oklahoma City was sitting out half of its roster: Caruso, Wallace, J-Dub, Joe, Topic, Sorber, Kenrich, everybody inactive. And you still saw a really competitive back and forth, fun game. And I don't know, I was watching this game and I was like, Mathurin was good in the playoffs last year. And I think he really showcased that he, is a solid player in the league, but he was really, really good for Indiana in this game.
Yeah, he was very, very good for Indiana this game. Look, Indiana is so impressive to me because they play so hard, and we saw this last year in the playoffs and certainly in the finals against the Thunder. They play hard, high IQ, they play team ball, high effort, high energy, and much like the Thunder, the depth, and then every guy 1 through 15 playing so hard and playing for each other. But I think Mathurin, in the absence of Halliburton, somebody's got to step up. I think Mathurin is going to be that guy for them. He was incredible. I think Pascal Siakam, obviously really, really good. Shepherd, Toppin, Walker, all these guys. I just am impressed overall by the Pacers that down Halliburton, they're still fighting. I don't know if they'll make the play-in or the playoffs, but I'm just so impressed by that Pacers team, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't think they look like a team that's going to make the play-in or the playoffs. They were 0-3 to start the season, but they've been competitive, and this game here was one they really wanted, and they showed up to play. But let's go on to the third game. This one, not quite the drama of the first two games. The Thunder, a wire-to-wire victory over the Hawks, 117-100 in Atlanta. This game also saw a return to form for Chet. He was quiet against the Pacers. He was loud against the Hawks. He had a great game in this one. Scored 31 points. So what did you like? What didn't you like from game 3?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Chet is what really stood out. The 31 points, 11 rebounds, 6 of 8 from 3, 1 block and 3 steals. He was everywhere that night. And it was fun to watch kind of the 1-2 punch of Shai and Chet. In J-Dub's absence, two things have happened. The Thunder needed, the other member of the big three to really step up and fill some of the scoring and fill some of that secondary star power in J-Dub's absence, and Chet has absolutely done that. And they also needed Ajay Mitchell to step up as that secondary ball handler, creator, and playmaker off the bench, and he's done that. And again, Ajay Mitchell had another standout night. He had 14 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. So what I really, really liked about that game was Chet and AJ chipping in with this win. I think that those two guys have really, so far through 5 games, been the story for the Thunder. SGA is going to be SGA, but Chet looks like he's taken that leap. And then AJ looks like, he is firmly right now in 6th man of the year conversations. He is most improved player of the year conversations. He's been so impressive. I know we'll talk more about him later, but that's what really stood out. What I didn't like about this game, I don't know. There's, like you said, this was maybe what I didn't like was it didn't go to double overtime. I was kind of hoping we'd go 82-0 with double overtime games, and this was kind of the first realization it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that was kind of a bummer, to have a quiet night, and Shai didn't have to play the fourth quarter, but he got all his 30 points within 3 quarters, and pretty neat to see Chet and Shai each score 30 points, over 30 points, Chet 31, Shai 30, so 61 points between the two of them. That was a lot of fun. The one thing I'll note here that didn't like, and this leads to our discussion coming up, Thunder took only 19 free throws against the Hawks. Didn't really see them play a whole lot different. The whistle may have been a little bit different, but the Hawks, I I don't know how they avoided fouling the Thunder, because it's not like that's what they're known for, is just epic defense and being able to avoid the foul. So, let's move on to the fourth game, a 101-94 win in Dallas against the Mavericks, and the number one overall pick, Cooper Flagg. I think Cooper Flagg played this game. I'm not really sure. I don't know. What did you like? What didn't you like from this one?
Yeah, so what I liked about this one was the Thunder got up big. We're up 22 points, and we're just absolutely dominating this Mavs team. What I didn't like was the Thunder gave up that lead. It got down to 3 points, and it looked real dicey there for a minute. Very much shades of being in Dallas a couple of years ago. The Thunder up big, and Luka and the Mavs go on a 30-0 run. Never seen anything like it. But what was even crazier about that was the Thunder still somehow held on for a win that game, and they held on for a win this game despite all the momentum and that home crowd and the Mavs having such a great fourth quarter. They hold on for the win. This was an entertaining game, and it wasn't really an entertaining game for most of the game. I thought once again Ajay Mitchell was the standout. He had 17 points. He was 7 of 14 from the field. He also had 7 rebounds. Ajay Mitchell just continues to impress. And then Chet, once again, I think Chet was probably the player of the game this game. He had 18 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 blocks. He had only had 1 block through 3 games coming into this one, which was odd for Chet, even though, obviously his rim defense had been great. He had only got 1 block through 3 games, got 4 in this one. So Chet was the player of the game in this one.
Yeah. So what are your early reviews of Cooper Flagg? He played 31 minutes. He scored 2 points. He was 1 of 9 from the field. He was a -20 in the box score. Is he still just adjusting to the game?
I think a couple of things can be true. He also had his welcome to the NBA moment from Chet on just a ferocious dunk from Chet, poster dunk on Cooper Flagg. But look, Cooper is incredibly young. He's the youngest player in the NBA. I think he is very talented. I still think he's going to be a great player. The hype was so big and so strong, and has been for years on Cooper Flagg. It was going to be hard to meet those expectations like right out of the gates, just because the hype was so big. I think it's an odd fit, like with the Mavs, like they're trying to give him some point guard duties. They're so big. He's kind of been slotted into this point forward position because he's sharing the floor with Anthony Davis and PJ Washington. And if like Derek Lively and Gafford are healthy, they're out there as well. So there's this huge lineup. Also, I mean, it's going against Chet and Hartenstein and Dort and the Thunder defense. So, I mean, that's a tough part of it as well. So I think that there's just a lot going on. Cooper Flagg is going to be better than he's been early this season. I think this might be the worst game of his season for sure. 1-9 for 2 points and a -20. So there are better days ahead for Cooper Flagg, but I just think that maybe the hype was just out of control and unfair for an 18-year-old rookie with a weird fit on this Mavs team.
All right. So we'll give Cooper Flagg a little bit of grace, but to call back that Chet dunk over Cooper Flagg, that was a thing of beauty. And I think I've watched that many, many times when I just need to pick me up in my life. Yeah. Let's go to the yeah, go ahead.
On this point, I one last thing. I will say this, because we're talking about Chet and Cooper Flagg. I'd seen like some off-season like NBA player rankings, like top 100 player rankings. Like there's so many different outlets that put off their 2025, 2026 player rankings. And there are a couple of them that had like Cooper Flagg ranked ahead of Chet or like in the same range as Chet. And that's like, okay, come on. Like Chet is proven he is an NBA champion. The Thunder don't win a championship without Chet. Like he is proven to be like an all-star worthy talent. And I just think that like it's wild. That's like what I'm saying about the expectations. The fact that Cooper Flagg was even in that conversation to be right there with Chet in that range as an 18-year-old on this team is just wild. Sorry, go ahead.
No, all good. Well, I was going to go to the Kings game, but I actually want to go back and see is there anything that we can diagnose from that meltdown, or was it really just Thunder got cold, Mavs hit some shots because the Thunder did have a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter. And I don't know, they scored 3, 4, actually 5 made field goals in the entire fourth quarter, but it was rough.
It was rough. I think that some of it was, look, this Thunder team has conditioned us to just kind of take for granted the fact that most teams like will kind of take their foot off the gas pedal. This Thunder team just doesn't do that. They always attack every possession, every game, every quarter aggressively, and never really let up. And this may have been the very rare case of maybe they let off the gas pedal just a little bit. And of course, they're not totally healthy. They're missing a lot of guys. I think some of it, though, they're just missing some shots. Like SGA, this game, he just could not find his mid-range game, which is just the weirdest thing. Like, we're just so used to seeing Shai be automatic from mid-range, especially when the Thunder need a bucket. Like, we're just like, okay, Shai, just go to your mid-range, get some easy buckets, ice this game, put it away. And he tried. And 99 times out of 100, we're going to see Shai just go to his mid-range and knock those down, knock enough of them down to put a game away like this. And it just didn't happen that night. He just kept back rimming, just barely missing. So I think it was just one of those rare odd nights, maybe a combination of letting up just a little bit there for a little bit, and the Mavs getting hot, and Shai not being able to find the mid-range, strangely.
Yeah, he was 0 of 5 in the fourth quarter shooting from the field and took just 2 free throws, and those were off an intentional foul. We'll come back to that in a moment. So now we'll go to the Kings Thunder game. This one was the Thunder's second home game, so they had a 3-game road trip in the friendly confines of the Paycom Center. They pulled this one out, 107-101, but it looked dicey there for a while as the Kings and Russell Westbrook were really taking it to the Thunder, were maintaining a lead. Every time the Thunder seemed like they were making a run, we're getting back into the game, the Kings had an answer. The Thunder took a lead in the third quarter. Immediately, the Kings went on a run and pushed the lead back up to double digits. What did you like? What didn't you like from this one?
Yeah, so what I liked from this one was, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I know we're going to get to it and like really go into more depth on it in just a little bit, but I liked AJ Mitchell once again. I think AJ Mitchell was huge for the team down the stretch and in the fourth quarter. I've just been so impressed with him. He once again had 18 points. Also really liked Aaron Wiggins. He had a big night. He was 4-10 from 3-point range. 6 rebounds, 6 assists, some offensive rebounds that were absolutely huge. I think that what I didn't like was the 3-point shooting outside of AJ Mitchell and Aaron Wiggins. Shai and Lou combined for 2 of 11 from 3-point range. Jay Will went 1 of 6. Like, these are good 3-point shooters. They just weren't hitting tonight. Although SGA did hit his final one, which iced the game, that sidestep 3-pointer that put the game away, huge bucket. But just the 3-point struggles continued tonight. I'll say this. It was the second night of a back-to-back for the Thunder. They didn't have Chet. They didn't have J-Dub. They didn't have Isaiah Joe. The Kings, Russell Westbrook in his first game as a King, they hit some tough buckets. Russell Westbrook started off 3 of 3 from 3. It could have been just one of those nights, but the Thunder still have conditioned us to believe no matter the circumstances, they can pull out a win like this, and the Kings have conditioned us to believe that they will lose a game like this, and that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the 3-point shooting because it was rough against the Kings. It's been rough pretty much all season long, and I'll admit, it wasn't fun seeing Russell Westbrook shoot from 3 so well. He finished 4 of 8 for the game, and so he would have been the best 3-point shooter on the Thunder if his stats were ported over. And this is like a trend for the Thunder. I mean, they shot 31.8% from 3, which is actually an improvement over their average. And even after the Kings game, they are worst in the NBA at converting threes at 28.8%. Sample size, yes, we're 5 games into the season, and maybe the Thunder can progress to what we might expect from them, but there's been a lot of struggle from deep. Shai is shooting just 23% from 3. Is it a sample size thing, or do we have a problem?
I think there's a few factors here. I think sample size certainly is a part of the equation. Like Lou Dort has proven over the past couple seasons to be like a near hovering 40% 3-point shooter. He shot over 40% from three last year. He hasn't been shooting like that so far this year. Shai, I think we all realize that Shai is a better 3-point shooter than he shot so far this year. He would be shooting a career worst from three, and I don't think any of us expect that to continue. Jay Will has been a great 3-point shooter throughout his career. So none of these guys, Cason Wallace isn't shooting like he typically does. But then also, like last night, they didn't have Chet. Chet's been the Thunder's best 3-point shooter so far this season. He's shooting over 42% from three this season. They don't have J-Dub, one of the best shooters on this team. Isaiah Joe, the Thunder's best 3-point shooter, hasn't played a single game yet. Alex Caruso was back last night, and he was big. He actually went 2 of 5 from three, including a big one in the fourth quarter. But he's missed 3 out of 5 games. So a lot of this is a lot of the Thunder's best shooters have been missing games. A lot of it's sample size. A lot of it's, there will be a positive regression to the mean at some point. I really think it's kind of encouraging that the Thunder are the worst 3-point shooting team through 5 games. They've played 5 teams that believe themselves to be playoff contenders. Obviously, the Kings aren't, but they don't know that yet. But the other 4 are playoff contenders, and yet they're 5-0 against good quality teams without a lot of their best players as the worst 3-point shooting team. So things should only improve from 5-0.
Yeah, I agree. That is quite the silver lining, and I think that is the silver lining from the 5-0 start is the Thunder have not shot the ball well. I don't think they played near their capabilities. They've been dealing with significant injuries. They've spent the entire season without J-Dub, their 2A best player, and they have found ways to win. They have found ways to pull out games that went to 2 overtimes twice. They have found ways to win when the Mavs made an epic comeback, and they found a way to win when they led a game wire to wire against the Hawks, and then they found a way to come back in down double digits to beat the Kings at home. So, hey, 5-0 is great, and that's where we hoped the team would be after the first 5 games. That's where they are, and they joined the 76ers, the Bulls, and the Spurs as the last remaining unbeaten teams in the NBA. Of that group, Brandon, is there any team in that unbeaten group that surprises you?
Oh, yeah, there's 2. I mean, the 76ers are definitely a surprise, and from a Thunder perspective, not a very good surprise since the Thunder own their top 4 protected pick this season. And then the Bulls are definitely a surprise. I think that the 76ers, obviously, Edgecombe has been great. Tyrese Maxey has been great. Joel Embiid has been playing games. If they're somewhat healthy, they're probably a playoff team in the East. And then the Bulls, hey, they've been impressive to start the season. Josh Giddey's been really good to start the season as well. But yeah, both those teams being undefeated so far is a bit of a surprise. The Spurs look very, very good. Wemby has obviously taken a leap, and he's obviously incredible. They've had a bit of an easy schedule to start, so I'm curious to see how the Spurs look against a little bit better competition coming up.
Yeah, we'll go back to Josh Giddey, and I guess this relates a little bit to the 3-point shooting topic. Josh Giddey is shooting 42% from 3 to start this season, so pretty good for Josh. And on the Spurs, Wemby looks like he has taken a massive leap forward. He looks like a dominant player, and I do think the Spurs have benefited from the early scheduling, but they started out really impressive by demolishing the Mavericks on the road in game 1, and they look like they're going to be a pretty salty team.
They do. I can't remember. I think I had them as my 8th team in the play. I can't remember if I had them slotted 8th or 9th when I did my official predictions, but I would not be surprised coming into this season if they did crash the playoffs this year, despite the West being so stacked, because we all anticipated a Wemby leap, and then, they get Dylan Harper, they got De'Aaron Fox in there, and Castle should be improving, and all these young guys should be improving. But man, can you imagine if for some reason the 1-8 matchup or or whatever it may be was Thunder Spurs, Chet Wemby, what the hype would be like going into that.
That would be fun. Yeah, big time fun. And the Spurs, they lead the league in point differential at .16.5, and the Thunder, despite being unbeaten, are sixth in point differential, and in fact are behind the 1-2 Houston Rockets.
That is wild. All these close games that the Thunder have played have certainly, been a big 180 from the point differential last year. But again, such a small sample size, and they have played good teams, and they've been out without J-Dub and Caruso and Chet one game and Isaiah Joe. And also, like, looking at the Spurs schedule, you mentioned, they did demolish the Mavs opening night, but then they beat the Pelicans in overtime, and then they beat the Nets and the Raptors. So all credit to the Spurs. They look legitimately good. I think they are going to be a playoff team this year. But I really want to see them against a little bit better competition, which the schedule starts getting a little bit tougher here coming up.
Well, since you mentioned the injuries, it's a great segue to the bench and contributors who have had great starts to the season. Ajay Mitchell, Aaron Wiggins, they deserve some love. Ajay Mitchell, we'll start with Ajay Mitchell. You mentioned he's, in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year after 5 games. He should definitely be in that conversation. He's averaging over 18 points per game. And he was good last season, right? I think he showed that he can be a creator with his shot. He's got some really nice offensive game, but with the opportunity and the minutes and, the ability to own possessions, like, he has shown that he is an actual weapon. So what do you think is behind Ajay Mitchell being able to kind of take the leap that he has? Is it really just the ability to play more to get those minutes? Or are you seeing something new in his game where it looks like he has made advancements?
I think this is just who Ajay Mitchell was. Ajay Mitchell was so good at Santa Barbara in college. It was a deal where he fell through the cracks and fell to the second round only because he was, quote unquote, an older rookie and because he played at a small school. We've seen those guys, and he's not a super athlete. So the combination of those three things gives prospects kind of this perceived lack of a ceiling, I believe. If you're at a small school, you're an older rookie, and you're not a super athlete. But then there's one thing that sometimes just kind of goes overlooked, and it's like the ability to actually play basketball, which Ajay Mitchell did at a high level in college, and he did it in his rookie season before he got hurt. He looked really, really good. He just wasn't playing as big a role as he's playing so far this season with the injuries that the Thunder have, but we saw the impact he could make as a rookie. Then we saw it in Summer League. We saw it in preseason. And we're seeing it so far this season. 18.2 points. He's shooting 47% from the field, 35% from 3, 3.8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.2 steals. And these are not empty stats. Like, this is not like somebody getting a bunch of stats like in garbage time or against bad teams or on a bad team and somebody needs to get stats. Like, the Thunder have needed every single one of these Ajay Mitchell points to get these wins. Like, what is their record right now if they don't have Ajay Mitchell? It's certainly not 5-0. I can tell you that. So he has been incredibly impressive. And I do believe, like, he's going to continue this role even when J-Dub comes back, even with Isaiah Joe coming back and Caruso back into the fold. He's not going anywhere. Now, will he be playing 27 minutes a night like he's averaging so far? I don't know about that because, minutes are going to start, being spread elsewhere. But he is going to stay in this rotation, and he is going to be like the main ball handler and creator and playmaker off the bench. And now the Thunder have 3 true creators and ball handlers, which is huge for this Thunder team.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Ajay Mitchell is not the best athlete, and he didn't come with the pedigree of playing at like a Duke or North Carolina. He came from a small school and was probably overlooked, which is why he fell to the second round. But what I've noticed, and I think too, when the Thunder needed a bucket, there were times they went to Ajay Mitchell, even when Shai was on the court. Like, he has demonstrated that he can create offense. He can create a shot where other players can't or might struggle. And when the Thunder really need a bucket, he can be that spark plug. But he's just got a really good sense of space on the offensive side of the ball. Like he kind of knows where the defender is, where they're moving, and takes advantage of them to find a way to the basket because he's aggressive. He attacks the basket really, really well. And I don't know, I wouldn't really say he's like Shai, but a little bit like Shai is he's really good at finishing and putting up some pretty difficult shots. I mean, he had one high off the backboard and banked it in. Like it's just quite a skill that he has to have that sense of space, to be able to attack that basket and take advantage of his opponent. And also just finish really tough contested shots inside.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was thinking it, but I didn't quite want to say it, but you did. He does remind me of Shai. Like, I mean, he's obviously not Shai. I'm not saying he's going to be Shai or anything like that, but if I had to say like whose game he kind of reminds me of, like playing at his own pace and his ability to drive and finish these tough shots around the rim. And then, working a little bit, all over the court as far as like being able to shoot it, being able to shoot a little bit in the mid range and drive to the basket. And just like the high IQ, not being able to speed him up, kind of a little bit of herky jerky like Shai, like it's not perfect. But if you were to ask me whose game he reminds me of, it's a little, he's got a little bit of Shai in him for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's also talk about Aaron Wiggins because Wiggins deserves some love. Like AJ Mitchell, I think the Thunder are not 5-0 without Aaron Wiggins, who's been really, really good to start the season. And I do think Aaron Wiggins has gotten better over last season. And this is a guy who put a 40-piece up last year. So he knows how to score. He knows how to contribute to this team. But he's been off to a great start this season.
Yeah, and he's been shooting well from three, which is great. He's shooting 38.2% from three, which is right in line with what he shot last year. He shot 38.3% from three, 14.2 points, which right now is a career high. He's playing 29 minutes per game, so he's playing a lot of minutes. He played 23 minutes per game last year. Obviously, some of that's going to go away when the Thunder get healthy. But yeah, the Thunder are not 5-0 without Aaron Wiggins. Wiggins and Mitchell have been absolutely huge pieces off the bench in this 5-0 start. And, against the Kings especially, and against the Pacers, Wiggins was huge with his three-point shooting, with his rebounding, even with his playmaking. I mean, he had 6 assists against the Kings. He also had 3 blocks, which is, I don't know if we've ever seen that from Aaron Wiggins. I think that's where I've seen the biggest difference so far with Wiggins has been kind of the all-around game and the defense. Like he's being more physical and aggressive, I think, on the defensive end. And the Thunder needed all of that from Aaron Wiggins. He's been great.
Well, glad we got to give it up to those key players because they've been off to hot starts this season, have been really the reason or big reason why the Thunder are 5-0. But let's go on to the topic that keeps staying alive in social media, and that is SGA and free throws. And it reached a fever pitch after Shai took 26 free throws against Indiana in a double overtime game, mind you, right? So he had taken 40 free throws over the first 2 games. Since then, since social media went nuts, since there were all these memes about SGA as the free throw merchant, he took 4 against Atlanta, 2 against Dallas, 2 against Sacramento. And of those 8 free throws, I think 6 of them have been non-shooting fouls. I think he's taken 2 shooting foul free throws in the last 3 games. What is going on?
Yeah, this is pretty ridiculous to be quite honest. I don't know. I don't know if it's just coincidence. I don't know if it's some sort of I don't want to speculate on why it's happening. Hopefully it's just the way the refs have been calling these last few games. But I know that Shai should have taken more than 2 shooting fouls over the last 3 games. He has not changed his game. He is still driving. He's still attacking. Shai is 8th overall right now in free throws attempted per game. But if you only paid attention to narratives and social media, you would think he was number one with a bullet, and there was a big space between number one and number two. And by the way, he's number 8, but that doesn't include Luka because he's only played 2 games, so he doesn't technically qualify right now. But he would be number one with 14.5 attempts per game. And I think there's a couple other guys that aren't qualifying right now. So really, SGA wouldn't even be in the top 10 if you looked at everybody's. Austin Reeves is leading the league with 12.8 free throws attempted per game right now. SGA has 9.6. And that 26 free throw attempt game against the Pacers, mind you, that was a double overtime game. Shai was constantly attacking. The Pacers had no answer, so they're playing very physical. It was a tightly called game anyways. Like we said, Benedict Mathurin shot 17 free throws, actually had a higher free throw rate than SGA did. But of course, it was crickets as far as, Mathurin's free throws on social media. I just hope that this is just a little anomaly and, the whistle goes back to just the way it should be. And here's all I know. All I know is Shai attacks the rim more than anybody in the NBA. He is maybe the best offensive player in the game, maybe the best scorer in the game, and defenders can't stop him, so he's going to get fouled, and he's going to get fouled a lot, and he's certainly going to get fouled more than 2 trips to the line, or actually 1 trip to the line over 3 games. So yeah, hopefully just an anomaly, because he certainly should be shooting more free throws than he is, which I know that, if other fan bases were to listen to this podcast, they would think that's crazy. But it's true.
Yeah, and I think the stats bear out that his game really hasn't changed. I mean, again, 80% of his 2-point field goals have been with a defender within 2 feet, so there's always been someone on his hip. And against the Kings and against the Mavs, 71 and 78% of his points scored were in the paint. Compared to against Indiana, when he took 26 free throws, 25.5% of his points scored were in the paint. Now, part of that might have been because of the free throws, but he's going to the basket, right? He is attacking just as he always has, but for some reason, the whistle is gone. And I don't know. If the refs are on social media, they need to get off because the narrative is wrong.
The narrative is absolutely wrong. And really, it's been kind of the one bummer. Shai has had an incredible past season, and going into this season, obviously he's won every accolade you could win. He won the championship and all the awards that come with it, and the scoring title, and all those things. And I think for the most part, he's getting his just praise, as he should. But that unfortunate free throw narrative that's out there would be the one thing that's kind of put a damper on it. But I think it's just highly driven by, social media will be that way. The Thunder are winning right now, and SGA is winning all the awards. So when that happens, other fan bases don't love it, and they'll drive narratives, and unfortunately that's been the case. But I just hope that things get back to normal as far as the whistles go and how they should be.
Well, to close, let's talk a little bit about the injury status. I mean, we've talked several times about how the Thunder are shorthanded. When do you have any idea when we're going to get J-Dub back?
All we know on J-Dub from the team is that Marcus said a couple of times that he is hitting all his recovery marks, like timeline where he's supposed to be as far as his progression goes. And we're hearing from the team that everything's looking good as far as his recovery goes, and it's where it should be. Now, we don't have any sort of timeline on that recovery. So I wish I had an answer for you. It's probably the number one question I see as far as comment sections on social media and things like that. Like, when is J-Dub coming back? What's the timeline on J-Dub? I wish I knew. All I know is he's where he's supposed to be as far as his recovery goes.
Yeah, and maybe it's the same question on Isaiah Joe. Not a whole lot of updates on him. Any sense of when he might come back?
Yeah, same thing. Don't know on Isaiah Joe. Obviously, that injury he had in preseason, when it happened, it looked like it might be a deal that would keep him out for a little bit. Hopefully he's back soon as well, but no idea as far as his recovery goes, and timeline goes. I do know that, the Thunder could use J-Dub, obviously, but also Isaiah Joe and his 3-point shooting and spacing.
Yeah, and Chet set out last night's game. Do you think that's a model of what the Thunder might do with Chet or Caruso or some others, where on the second night of a back-to-back, they might rest some of these guys?
Yeah, I could see that. Look, they're coming off a championship, and the goal this year is to repeat. And to do that, they want to be healthy and maximize the full possibilities of winning another championship. And to do that, you want to be healthy going into the playoffs. So I think that they will prioritize that. They're still going to prioritize winning and getting every single win that they can, obviously, but they also have the best depth in the NBA, and they're going to flex that and use that. And so when you have that kind of depth and you're coming off a championship season and you want to be healthy for the playoffs, sometimes maybe you will rest guys on a back-to-back, especially like Chet or Caruso. Those two guys in particular, I could see. Yeah.
All right. And we can talk more about this on an upcoming podcast, but, Topic is about 2 weeks away from being reevaluated. And then, when the Thunder get Dub back, when they get Topic back in the lineup, there's going to be some questions of how do you fit all of this talent, all these ball handlers in, where you have Ajay Mitchell playing really well and Aaron Wiggins playing really well. But for now, I think we get to enjoy the fact that the Thunder have so much depth that despite these injuries, they're still 5-0.
You know that life is good as a Thunder fan if the biggest issue you're looking at is how do you get this guy who is projected as a top 3 to 5 talent in his draft class? How do you get him minutes? Because the other guy with that role off the bench is killing it, and he's the 6th man of the year candidate right now. Like, it is good times, and you're 5-0, and at some point you're going to get J-Dub back, your second All NBA player, and you're going to get Isaiah Joe back. So yeah, these are good questions. But these are good questions and good problems to have, if you can even call them problems. So I am curious, though. I'm very much looking forward to seeing Topic play. I think he will get some rotation minutes with the Thunder. I think he'll also see some time with the Blue. Ajay Mitchell taking the reins on that bench ball handler creator position is great for the Thunder. Now they can develop Topic at his own timeline, but I do think that Mark will find some minutes for Topic in the rotation at some point for sure.
Well, right. He's finding minutes for Youngblood. He's finding minutes for Barnhizer. So he's definitely going to find minutes for virtually everybody. But it will be interesting. And again, I think as you noted, it's a good, quote, problem to have. But that's a great way to end it with the Thunder 5-0 with all these positive problems to have. And that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back in your feed soon.